looking at an analogy between the signals and vectors. So all this we were just talking. Let's see some images and see. So here we are talking about vector dot product. So vector dot product, A is a vector, B is a vector, and that is separated with an angle theta. Then the A dot B will be magnitude of A times magnitude of B times cos of this theta. So that is the cosine theta is used. That is the projection of A over B or projection of B over A, whichever way you can take it. It is A dot B or B dot A are equal. So you can say projection of A over B or projection of B over A. So both the magnitudes, here both vectors have magnitudes as well as direction, or in terms of signal if you want to say both have different shapes. Then inner product defines the similarity. The signal energy is analogous to the vector length, so we can just find the magnitude of the vector. Two signals are orthogonal if the inner product is 0, enable geometric interpretation of signal space as just discussed in the earlier session. So signals can be represented as points or vectors in an n-dimensional space, so that's a easier way to represent, and these n dimensions are the n basis functions that span the signal space, and any signal can be represented as the sum of these basis functions with some coefficients or the projection of the signal over those basis functions. So that's the sum of that ai phi I of t, where ai is the projection of ith basis function over the, or projection of x over the ith basis function, or vice versa, whatever way you take it. The coefficient ai found to be the projection given by this expression, and this simplifies analysis and reconstruction. We can see that this is A. So A can be represented as the components. So along y component, along x component, along z component, we can just show that the x, y, z are the three basis functions here. So we are talking about three-dimensional world, and the A happens to be this point, and this line from the origin to that point is the vector A, and this point is B, so the line from origin to that point is vector B. And if you just drop down this, then this darker green part is what is the projection of A over B, that is A dot B. Same way we can take a projection of B over A, it also will be equal to that, because it all depends on the size of A, size of B, and the angle between them. So here this projection is better shown here. We have V1 here, V2 here. From V1 we draw a normal line to V2, and where it touches V2, so that length along V2 is the projection of V1 over V2. Same way we can draw from V2 to V1 a normal line, then this length will be the projection of V2 over V1, and they happen to be same because A dot B or B dot A are equal. Then we look at orthogonal signal space. So if the angle between them is 90 degree, then cos 90 is 0. So whatever be the size of A, length of A, x, and length of y, doesn't matter, it's going to be 0 because cos 90 is 0. The projection, this integral phi of t, phi I of t times the conjugate of phi j of t integrated over time. Make sure that I and j are not same. If it is 0, then we can say phi I, phi j are orthogonal to each other. So here we can talk about sinusoidals, Legendre's, polynomials, exponentials as examples for orthogonal signals. And orthogonality ensures no redundancy in the signal space. So if we are talking about any two signals, and if we try to make them as basis functions, then we must ensure that the basis function should be orthogonal to each other. Otherwise, the one component of one basis function will be available in the other, and that unnecessarily increases the redundancy and complicates our work and make it more complex. Example here we can see that the blue line, the blue curve we have is sine of omega t, and the black curve is sine of 2 omega t. So you can see that the blue curve in this time has made one cycle, whereas the red curve has made 2 cycles. And if we multiply them, then what we get is the red curve. And this red curve, if you look at it, and if I find the area under that red curve, so I am just taking this product and then integrating from this full period, then we can see that the integration means finding area under the curve. So this green marking is talking about area under the curve, and it says that this area, the upper part of that area, is exactly equal to the lower part of this area because of symmetry, and this area is a positive area and this area is a negative area, and they cancel each other, making the net area equal to 0. Therefore we can say that sine omega t and sine 2 omega t, if they are used together, then they are orthogonal to each other. That means they share no common area between them. That's what we call about the orthogonal functions. Now, how these orthogonal functions can be used to approximate a signal. So the approximation improves with the more number of terms. The more terms we use, the better approximation we have. So if it is a truncated expansion, then there is some limit to the n. So we are just trying to truncate it to first n terms of the series, and what could happen. So we are trying to represent a rectangular wave or a square wave. We can make use of a sine wave. So one sine wave we have, and then to that if we add a third harmonic, that is this is of some frequency omega, then 3 times omega, if that is added at a magnitude 1/3, then this is what we get. So we get this plus this as this one. So comparing this with this and comparing this with this is much similar to this than a single sine wave. Then to that a fifth harmonic is added, then it becomes even better. Then seventh harmonic is added, it becomes even better. Ninth harmonic is added, that makes even better. So you can just look at after adding ninth harmonic, this looks almost like a square wave, but not exactly like a square wave. And then to understand how better it is being represented, looking at that we can say that this is better than this, this is better than this, this is better than this, and this is better than this. That's looking at that using our intelligence, we can say that. But to put it on the paper, to prove that, we need some mathematical tool, we need some value for that, and that value, what we call, is an error. So just try to find how different this is from this. So it is different. How different this is from this? Yeah, it is different, but compared to this, it is less different. So that way, if you look at this, this is different from this, but compared to the previous one, the difference is less. Compared to even previous one, it is even less, and so on. That way we can say that that means the more number of terms we add, if you can just keep looking at this, it says that the more number of terms we add, it is becoming more and more near to this, or the difference between these two is reducing, or the error is reducing. So as the n increases, the error is diminishing. If in reality, if we want to get this perfect square wave, then this n should go up to infinity. Anyway, what our main aim here is to understand how to correlate whether the two signals have similarity or not, and that is done through the error. And that error is trying to find the total difference between the two. But when you are trying to find difference between the two, sometime the difference will be positive, some other time the difference may be negative, and if you just integrate that, then the positive component, negative component will cancel each other, make it a 0, giving a false information, false idea that there is no error at all. But in reality there were error, but the problem was sometime it was positive error, sometime it was negative error, summing up it becomes 0. So to solve that problem, just try to remove that sign component. So what you have to do is square it. Squaring positive will remain positive, squaring negative will make it positive. So after a square, the error is going to be always positive, and when you integrate it, then there is no chance of cancelling each other, and hence there will be some value other than 0 if there was any error. The the value will be 0 only if everywhere it was 0. So that is why we look for squaring, and then the error is computed and then find the mean. So we make use of the mean square error for that. So what we are trying to do is trying to find the difference between the actual signal and the approximated signal. So this is the actual signal and this is the approximated signal. Find the difference, square them, and then integrate over the whole interval, and that is the error. And this error, if it is 0, then we can say confidently that the two things are exactly same, because there is no chance of cancelling because of sign problem, because now it is squared, there is no chance of cancellation due to sign problem. Everything is always positive, and if epsilon happens to be 0, only one chance that at every value of t, x of t should be exactly equal to xn of t. That means at every point the two values are exactly same, so the result is 0 square, 0 square, 0 square, everything integrated, everywhere 0. So finally we get a 0. So that's what we look into, what signal is and how this signal can be represented with orthogonal functions. So why do we require this? Is instead of working on every kind of signal, because there, if you think of a signal, there can be infinitely different types of signals possible, but not possible to have a mathematical model for all infinite possible signals. So what we can do is think of some basis functions that are orthogonal, and if you can approximate any signal using these orthogonal functions, then yes, we have a known form for any given signal. And if for this known form, if you can do some operations, then it is indirectly doing the operations to the actual signal. So that is what is the basic idea, and why we work with the vector algebra when we are working with signals and systems. That's one of the important reasons why vector analysis is essential in understanding signals and systems. So that's it for now. Many more interesting issues to follow. So keep watching. Thank you.